Today, we're diving into Natasha Trethewey's Pulitzer Prize-winning poetry collection, Native Guard. It tells the story of a war that, believe it or not, didn't really end when the fighting stopped. We're going to explore how a simple poem can become a powerful monument for a history that was almost completely erased. So, we all know the history books, right? The Civil War officially ended in 1865. But Trethewey's work asks this really profound question. For the Black soldiers of the Louisiana Native Guard, was the end of the war just the start of a totally different kind of fight, a fight from memory itself? And this line, this is the absolute heart of it. This isn't about victory or defeat from the soldier's perspective. It's about a ledger. It's this demand for a final, honest accounting of everything that was lost, everything that was suffered, and everything that was just wiped away. Okay, so let's really dig into this idea of an unresolved ending. I mean, how can a war actually be over if the peace and the recognition never even show up? For the soldier in this poem, that silence after the cannons finally stop firing, well, that's not an ending. Not even close. It's the start of a whole new battle. And with his pen, he starts this final accounting, not of battles won, but of a history that was literally being stolen from him. And you know where that reckoning starts? With the most fundamental thing a person can have: a name. One of the very first injustices that had to be accounted for was the systematic erasure of the soldier's identity. Just take a look at this timeline. The soldiers started out as the Native Guard, a name that staked a claim, right? This is our homeland. But as the war went on, the Union Army just systematically stripped that identity away. First, they became corps d'Afrique, and then they were just absorbed into the generic U.S.-colored troops, a change that, by the way, also got rid of all the Black officers. And Trethewey just captures the pain of this change so perfectly. Look at the contrast here. To go from Native Guard, a name that claims a home, to corps d'Afrique was, in the poem's own words, to take the native from our claim. It was an official act that basically made these soldiers exiles in their own country. But erasing their name, that was just one entry in a much, much larger ledger of trauma. The soldier makes it clear that so much more has to be accounted for. The poem just becomes this brutal, heartbreaking ledger, cataloging one injustice after another. You've got the massacre of surrendering Black troops at Fort Pillow, the betrayal where Union sailors actually fired on their own retreating Black soldiers, the removal of Black officers, and just the constant grinding indignity of being treated like laborers instead of liberators. And this moment, wow. This captures the official betrayal perfectly. After the Battle of Port Hudson, Black soldiers were just left unburied on the field. When a Confederate officer asked for a truce to bury them, the Union general, Nathaniel P. Banks, reportedly refused. He said, "I have no dead there." Think about that. Their sacrifice wasn't just ignored, it was denied. So, if the official history, if the stone monuments are all erasing you, how do you fight back? How do you make sure that what happened gets accounted for? And here's the cruel irony. On Ship Island, the very place where the Native Guard served, there is a monument, but it was put there by the Daughters of the Confederacy. It has Confederate names raised up in bronze, but as the poem points out, no names carved for the Native Guards. Their service is just met with complete silence. So what's the answer? Well, if stone and bronze refuse to tell the story, words have to. Trethewey's entire collection, Native Guard, becomes the very monument that history failed to build. And she does this with a very specific and very powerful literary tool, a sonnet sequence. Now think about it. The sonnet, right? We associate that with Shakespeare, with high European art. By choosing that form, she's deliberately elevating this marginalized, forgotten history. She's basically arguing that this Black soldier's story belongs in the permanent official record of human experience. And all of this builds to the poem's most powerful structural choice, one that reveals the unending, cyclical nature of trauma and memory. The poem kicks off with this declaration from the soldier narrator. It's a statement about holding on to the past, both the good and the bad. But I want you to remember these first two words, truth be told. So after 10 sonnets that detail the war and all its trauma, the poem's final line is the same as its first, truth be told. It ends exactly where it began. It creates this perfect, unending loop. So what does that mean? It means the story doesn't resolve. The trauma isn't just healed and put away. This circular structure tells us that the work of accounting for the past, of fighting against erasure, is never actually finished. It's a continuous cycle. The story has to be told, and then it has to be told again. And that really leaves us with a final thought. By creating this unending loop, Trethewey seems to be suggesting that both personal trauma and a nation's history, well, they don't follow a straight line to some neat conclusion. Instead, they're things we have to constantly revisit, re-examine, and retell to make sure that the truth is in fact told.